they've been like, "Hey Tom, I love your videos. They're so funny." Well, couldn't make one tonight. All kinds of internet problems. That's my wife in the background. Hey babe, I'm starting the show. I'm glad you had clothes on. Yeah. No graphics, no videos, no nothing. This is a literal live stream of consciousness. I'm not going to be too fancy about it tonight and get right to it. And that makes sense because our guest has everything in the world to offer and more. Ladies and gentlemen, my good friend, Pamela Means. Put your internet hands together. Say hi to Pamela.
Hi, Tom.
I'm not a fan of this world. We've known each other a long time. And I got a nickname, 24-hour Tom. I just love to be out there, and I'm always the last one to leave the club, and I hate this. I'm not happy. I'm glad to see you though. How you doing?
Yeah, seeing you was one of the gigs I lost with this pandemic situation.
Was that was an EP release, I think, right?
Yeah. For this very thing that didn't exist at the time. Where's the thing? Where's the
there
camera?
It is. I can make it easier. I could do that. I can all Pamela all the time.
So I open it so it'd be not shiny. Yeah, so this is one of my projects, band with these two women. Cinnamon Blair on bass. No, that's Aisha. That's Aisha on percussion. Cinnamon Blair on bass. I can't see it.
It's the internet world.
Pamela Means in the Reparations. Cool.
I listened to the EP on a very long bike ride.
Good.
And I had the earbuds in, and I'm riding the bike, and I have the phone in my pocket. So it flipped around like twice. You know, it did the whole flippy cassette thing, except on the iPhone in my pocket. I got to listen to it a couple times.
Yeah.
It's great. It's live.
Yeah.
And it's
live in the studio. Yeah.
But it's live. It wasn't, at least you can't hear a million overdubs. It sounds like it's the real deal.
Oh, it's live. It was live for an audience of, I think, 5 or 6 people.
Yeah.
In the studio. Yeah. It
it's
was sort
just
of a house
concert.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's just how I like music. It's like I've been stuck on these videos of the Police lately. My hero, my childhood hero band, the Police, just a trio, live and raw. And I'm not even talking about the later days. I'm talking about all the live recordings of them from like my father's place in the Paradise here in Boston. Like that's what it reminds me of, and that's my favorite way to listen to music. It's a great snapshot of a great band.
Yeah, you have a recording of the Police playing at Paradise Rock Club.
They're out there. There's a million bootlegs of the Police from their early days.
And what is My Father's Place? Is that?
I believe that's a New York City club. It's a New York City club.
It's a venue called My Father's Place.
Yes. Back in the days, New York. Oh, I forgot. We have chat. People might be chatting us up. Somebody say hi, so I know Pamela. We might just be talking to each other.
Okay. Hey, that's one more person that I get to talk to than usual.
The way my text's going today might just be us. But yeah, it's something about the lyrical content and the raw emotion and musicianship and recording makes it even more poignant than if you went into the studio and produced those songs. Like the lyrics, even in the wake of what we're probably calling a victory here with the change of office.
Yeah,
it's we still need. That's the biggest thing I think we're going to need to get over. It's okay, yay, victory, celebration, but now it's time to think about the next step. And like it, just because we won this thing this week doesn't make your CD less important. It's the same importance with more opportunity now, potentially.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that. The only thing is that the first song on here is called Impeachment Now. And but I wrote it a couple of Januaries ago, and I just wanted to be on the record for my outspokenness against that fool. And good riddance, goodbye, bye bye, bye Felicia. So even if that particular song might already be outdated, I did change the lyrics this year to vote him out now.
Hmm.
But still, I wanted to be on the record for posterity, for all history to see that, down
It
with.
was almost impossible to write songs and keep them relevant in this administration because
Mm.
every time you wrote a song about somebody, they were fired within weeks.
Yeah, and it took me over a year to write the first song because it was the whole stretch of the past administration has we've been on I've been on, I think all of us have been on high alert on a daily basis. There has been no respite from scandals and shenanigans and outrageous and behavior and racist comments and rage tweeting and so plus the initial shock of him being elected in the first place, uh, even though he lost the popular vote. We got to get rid of the electoral college too. That's a bunch of hooey. Uh, but
Yeah.
it took a while to get out of that intense rage and discomfort to find a couple of words to plop down that
Now,
turned into.
um, now that I think this might be the first time I could talk about it on a show, a live show, without jinxing anything. I think if Joe Biden passes out right now, Kamala is the president, right? I mean, that's how it works, right?
I think so. I hope
It's not
so.
like they go to another vote. So
Yeah,
theoretically, without jinxing anything, I could talk about this stuff.
yeah.
My guess is before the primaries, you were not a Joe Biden vote.
No, you mean like no,
Yeah.
no, no.
Neither was I, in the deepest of ways. In fact, I really, yeah, it's not that I had to bite my tongue and vote for him because Trump is so bad, but wasn't my first choice. And so now, like, I guess my question for you, because I know you are a civil-minded person and you do think about politics, you always have. Um, what's next? How, they, you vote, you root for your president, you start hating him the minute they get in
Yeah,
office, right?
yeah,
So
right.
what's next? Because, Biden, I mean, there's aspects of Joe Biden's career that have set black people and women back fucking decades. So,
Kamala
now,
Harris,
now what?
Kamala Harris too. She did a lot of hurtful damage to black and brown people in California when she was district attorney in Greater San Francisco, and then as Attorney General, she kept the three strikes and you're outlaw alive. She did a lot of painful things, and so I think that it is our task, our collective task as citizens of the country who believe in justice and humanity to keep on them and to keep their feet to the flame, so to speak. And I was glad to see that already. The Black Lives Matter movement has written an open letter to the Biden-Harris administration asking and offering to be involved in this transition and to set on the task of Black liberation. And so, I still wanted to at least have a weekend to celebrate that Trump is gone, and there still is a woman who is vice president, biracial. I'm biracial. I have boobs. It's nice to see that reflected on the platform. But there's a lot under the hood that we still need to hold them accountable for and push them forward and off of the past criminalization and prosecution of.
Do you have, like, I have this hope? Maybe it's a blind hope, maybe it's an ignorant hope, but I do have this hope. Like, I'm not as familiar with Kamala Harris's record, although I know it's tarnished in that way. I have a young son who is very much a fighter for fighting the good fight, and he's been telling me for months how Biden and Kamala are the fucking worst, and in the way we're talking about right now. I have this hope that like Biden, like this almost like redemption, like maybe he's like, okay, I did all this stuff. Maybe, my son isn't having this, but I'm like, maybe he made the decisions he made and he thought it was a good thing. Turned out it was a bad thing. And somehow he's going to redeem it. That kind of thing. I mean, my son will chew my ear off about, profit prisons and stuff like that. And how, a lot of these guys, they'll never turn it around voluntarily. But like, do you think that way? Do you think like a Kamala Harris, Joe Biden are going to be like, wow, we really fucked up in the past. Let's see if we can set this right.
Well, I think they're definitely going to be better than Trump. Immediately, like a monkey will be fucking better than Trump.
Yeah.
But yes and no. I think that I don't think they're going to do as much as we want them to. I'm already concerned about the possibility of putting Republicans in his cabinet and rewarding the Republicans who have been complicit in the past 4 years with the Trump administration with positions of power and continue to have jobs and stuff. But Biden did apologize for the crime reform bill that he sponsored or was part of or helped pass back in the 90s.
He was one of the architects of that thing.
Yeah. I did notice in his Saturday Night Victory speech that he said African Americans have always had his back, and he will have our back now. I was like, when he said that, I was like, what? To say those words was cool to hear, but now do it. So
Right.
we'll see. Those are bold words for him to say. And what's disappointing is that we have this two-party system that really seems like one, and they all play the game. They all seem to be those who have risen to at least these heights of power and the presidency. Have all befriended Wall Street, have all befriended the wealthy, have not worked hard, including Obama, have not worked hard to eliminate poverty or racism or all of the ills that continue to make our society suffer. And so we need more than a two-party system. Obviously, the Democrats are not overtly out there saying, overtly racist stuff, but we got a lot of work to do across the board. I would like to see also, I'm concerned that the Biden-Harris administration will ignore and neglect the more progressive part of the Democratic wing or non-Democrats that are progressive and lefty.
It's almost like a glimmer of hope the way he had to, like Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, even AOC.
Yeah.
They got such backing that the three, whatever they call them, the Mod Squad. I don't know what they call it.
The squad.
Yeah. Squad. The Mod Squad. Mod Squad was that 70s show, right? That's dating me right there. They knew they needed that support, and whether they were pandering or not is really the question. But they did say they are incorporating these points of views into their campaign, Biden Harris, because they need, the one thing Hillary didn't get is the Bernie support, because it was so much vitriol there, so they knew they needed that support. Maybe it's lip service, maybe it's not, but it's like, so a little something like that might be what pushes us to the 3 and 4 party system or more party system. And then it didn't pass, but the whole ranked choice voting got some traction.
Hey, I was surprised it didn't pass in Massachusetts. But.
That's, imagine that was a national thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It could be. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, if it was a national thing, we'd probably have Bernie Sanders running, because, I mean, he got so much support, Yeah, I don't know.
Well, the Democratic Party itself screwed over Bernie Sanders. You know,
Oh,
he
absolutely.
had the
Yeah,
votes, they stole them, and they chose Hillary. And so you know, to sabotage ourselves is like, what the hell, you know? And so,
I think they did it again. I think we're very lucky that we have a President Biden right now. I think
mm,
they really did it again. I mean, Bernie was just on fucking fire once again this past season, and I just think like the Dems just can't get behind it. And I mean, listen, if they did it crooked, they did it crooked. If they didn't, they didn't. But and they're Dems. They're not Bernie Sanders. They're like, maybe Bernie is his own thing. Is independent. That's where the parties should divide and get. I don't know. There's other countries out there with like four-party systems, and there's other countries out there that have
and even
election.
more. Yeah, and even more. And I would like to see a mandatory voting. If there were mandatory voting in this country, there would never be another Republican elected, unless they wildly change their platforms and actually listen to the electorate.
What do you mean by that mandatory voting? Like,
At least three different countries in the world have mandatory voting. One of them is Australia, and every eligible person,
you have to vote. It means
you
what you
have to
said.
vote.
Huh?
Yeah, or you get a fine, and pay a ticket.
Really?
Yep. hmm
Really?
And yep, and I had a little email back and forth with a guy in Australia a couple weeks ago, and he asked me if voting was difficult for me here. And I said, no, not in Massachusetts, but in the rest of the country, there's a lot of mishigas and shenanigans going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, what is mandatory voting like in Australia? Do people complain about it or not? And he said, people don't really complain about it, but the media in Australia is still run by Rupert Murdoch, and there's a lot of right wing power and money trying to overturn mandatory voting. So if poor people, black and brown people in Australia, don't have to vote, they probably won't. And then, so it's the same kind of stuff happening here in the
Mm.
U.S., just from the other end. And it's really sad to see. And I hope, though, I do hope now after this election that uh, more people in the country will believe that our votes really do matter, and continue to take advantage of that right going forward.
Were you prepared at all for a Biden loss? Like, what did you do this week to be like, all right, like, what were the things you said to yourself? All right, if fucking Trump wins, this is how I'm going to handle this.
I was really worried. I was really worried, and it doesn't really help that the vote was so close in so many places. We're still a global shame and mystery to the rest of the world. There's still over 70 million, if not outright racist people who are totally comfortable having a racist be in charge. And
Mm.
that's a horrible, horrible feeling in reality. And that's part of what we got to work on going forward. So I am, and it's still not over. It's still not over. You know, I feel more and more certain that Biden will be inaugurated. But as of today, there's 72 days until the inauguration. The
Mm.
election has to be certified by December 14th.
Mm-hmm.
There have been rumors of some Republican states sending electors from their electoral college to just say what they want to say anyway, not necessarily what the people have voted. I think that's probably unlikely, but given that so much crazy shit has happened the past 4 years, you know,
Yeah.
it's possible. So I was ready to cry and be upset and just and hit the streets and keep writing songs. Yeah,
Mm. Mm.
yeah.
I, you know, I,
And continue educating myself about all the issues that are percolating right now.
I don't know if well, you know, what I was about to say is I don't know, like, you know, I read, you know, it's at one point I was reading the Steve Martin autobiography, and he was as a young comedian. At one point, he decided, you know what, to hell with politics. You haven't helped me. I'm not going to help you. And he decided that all of his art, at least outgoing art, would never be political again.
Mm.
He would never, you know, and there was a part of me that was taking that to heart. And I was like, no, maybe that's what I'll just do. Maybe I'll just fuck politics. I'm going to shut off all the news media. I'm just going to go about my life. But oh, I might have just turned my reverb on. Sorry about that. But like, I'm just like going like this with mixing, and I'm like faders, and I'm like, oh, that's the reverb, you know. But dare I say, like, you don't have that choice because you're a black woman in America. You can't ignore it.
Yeah.
Like, I can't. You know, whether I should or not is a different question. But like, you know, I'm not going to get pulled over just for the fuck of it. I mean, I drove I don't know if you remember my black Honda, that little 1990 Honda Civic with fucking dents and stickers and shit hanging off of it everywhere, broken muffler, blah, 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 just driving around all of the country, and like I never got pulled over. Maybe like once or twice, totally deservingly. Like one time, the guy was like, "You have to like wipe off your license plate. There's so much soot. There's so much soot on your license plate from your exhaust that I can't read the numbers." I'm like, wow. I'm sorry, and I did it, but like, you can't ignore it. Like, it will affect you in a way that obvious that it won't affect me. You know,
right?
So you have to fight the good fight, and you know, I will too. I promise I'm not going to just fucking go. But yeah, it's, I tell you, I'm kind of pointing this conversation towards politics, and we can get off of it or not. But I wanted to say, back in the day, you were one of the first persons who kind of schooled me, kind of educated me on a few things. Like I remember we were walking through, I don't know, Tufts Courtyard or Harvard Courtyard. We're walking somewhere. I don't remember how. I don't remember why. I think we were walking from your place. There was a little bit of, I don't like, we've hung out over the years. Like I've helped you with some guitar tech stuff, and I might have played bass for you once. I don't even remember, but we were hanging out, and it was right. I'm pretty sure it was just post 9/11 or pre 9/11. Either way, no, it was post 9/11 because Bush is in office, and we got into this political conversation, and you were so much more schooled and educated about things than I was. And I was basically, like you could imagine, like skinny little fucking white kid just hanging out in Massachusetts playing guitar and drinking and fucking off and having a blast. And like somewhere in my psyche was a politically minded person, because I would write lyrics like everybody get together and it's going to be okay and stop, you know, but I wasn't educated. It was just like this, maybe it was in the heart, but it wasn't in the brain, you know? And we had this conversation, and she was talking about the United States and the Middle East and racism in the United States and what Bush means to this country now, you know, and it really kind of what the very beginning of me going like, huh. And it might have been right post 9/11 where many people were kind of like, I think I'm going to start listening to the news now because there's some shit going on.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. Similar to a Trump presidency. It's like you just can't ignore it anymore. Like even, you know, it's pretty easy to get complacent during the Obama presidency. It's like, oh, okay.
There was also that the Patriot Act that was passed right away after 9/11, which was very intrusive, and all of us
right.
brought about, accelerated the Big Brother aspect of our country with spying on all of us.
It really did. Mm-hmm. And now it's an interesting time because like I had a conversation with Eric Schwartz. You probably know Eric, right, over the years, and about masks and mandates. Because he's like, I just hope there's a mandate and everybody has to wear a mask. And actually, to be honest with you, this I thought about this with the mandate you mentioned about voting. And there will be the constitutionalist that's like, that's not in the Constitution. You can't make me vote. You can't that's what a lot of people don't like about the Affordable Care Act. You can't fine me for not getting health care. You can't fine me for wearing a mask. And that's where I hear my kid in the back of my head, the youth educating me saying like, oh, you take one constitutional liberty away, that you're opening the door. That's a big door you just kicked your foot into. So like that's
You got a smart kid, Tom.
yeah, he really is too smart. No, he's very smart. But that is essentially what the Patriot Act did. It kicked open this door, and like it's all out the window now. I mean, they're listening to this conversation right now.
Yeah. I probably have a little file somewhere for all my songs. Yeah.
Yeah.
hmm Um, I didn't want to be a political singer in my younger days. Before I knew about politics, I just wanted to play music and be rich and famous and write. And my very first songs when I was an adolescent, they're all super cheesy. Each one said "baby, baby" and stuff like that. A little
Mm.
cheesy pop bubblegum love songs, and um. But I also grew up in Wisconsin. I grew up in Milwaukee. Was very proud to see people in Milwaukee came out to vote and other little spots of Wisconsin and turned that state around for Joe.
Mm-hmm.
And so I experienced racism in my face as early as single digits, grade school, and so I grew up with a lot of anger and sadness, but not a deep understanding of everything, why, and the nuances and the history of the country and all that, or the city where I grew up. And so as I became a songwriter, and I was also gay, and I was like, please don't let me be gay, please, please, please. But I was gay. And so I was coming into myself and facing these truths about myself. And my first girlfriend, who lived in Cambridge, my first real girlfriend, and meeting in that relationship gave me the courage to get over my fear of, because I needed to leave Milwaukee, but I didn't know how, and I was kind of scared. But falling in love gave me the courage to give it a go. So, but anyway, she gave me the first political book I ever had, which was an anthology called "This Bridge Called My Back," and it's all black and brown women writers. And the first time I had heard of Audre Lorde, June Jordan, Barbara Jordan, and writers like that. And and they wrote nonfiction essays about the state of our country and racism and the history and all the oppression that I had grown up feeling but didn't thoroughly understand
Right.
words for.
Oh.
It was like, oh, that's
Wow.
what it is. And at the same time, coming into my own as a songwriter and reading of my favorite writers and songwriters and seeing and learning that the best art, the best writing comes from writing what you know. And so I had to write about what I knew, and what I knew was being a biracial queer person who grew up in Milwaukee. And so in that moment, I was like, oh. Oh, I gotta write about that stuff. And I could have skipped it, but I thought about it, but I wouldn't be able to live with myself.
Yeah. Let's see. Cross out, baby. Cross out, baby.
Come on.
Patriarchy must fall. What else can I edit? How can I? With great power comes great responsibility. Womp womp.
Yeah.
Now, what? So but you were a musician. You were writing songs in Wisconsin.
Mm.
what was the inspiration there? I don't want to be like, what was your inspiration to play guitar? That's not what I'm trying to do. But like you're a nasty guitar player. You're not Allah. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
you're a nasty guitar player. It's really a lot of fun to watch.
yeah.
And where did that come from? You know, like how, we're like, I'm gonna attack this fucking instrument. You know,
Um, I think it was. I went to the conservatory and studied classical and jazz, but I knew I would. At the time, I didn't think I would do either. I just needed to become a better musician, and then I
is that
found
here in Boston or in
that
Wisconsin?
was in Milwaukee in
Okay,
the Wisconsin Conservatory,
cool.
and I found the only New England style church basement coffee house in Milwaukee. It was called The Coffee House, and that's where I first played it on my own songs at an open mic. And
Imagine we find out they're all a corporate chain.
right, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm doing this. I'm doing this.
Yeah, the coffee house is owned by the same guy who owns Whole Foods, and it's like,
It's by Rupert Murdoch. um, what was I talking about?
sorry, but you're talking about the coffee houses in Wisconsin.
Oh, I think that some of the first cover songs I learned were things by Neil Young and Concrete Blonde. And I think it was Concrete Blonde and just trying to express that rock trio with just me on the acoustic. It wasn't something I intentionally set out to do. I think it was some of the early covers that I chose to learn,
Mm,
which were edgier, and probably all the repression and rage that I had that
mm.
had built up inside of me. Yeah.
Uh,
then when
great.
and then it was fun to do. It was fun to like wah, wail on the guitar and
I love Concrete Bong. Great lady bass player and front person.
yep,
What a
Janet
great, what a cool
Napolitano.
fucking band.
Yep, fantastic. Very
Uh,
influential. hmm hmm
cool. So yeah, again, trio that raw energy. You
Yeah,
know. So
and
what?
female fronted. Yeah, and
Mm,
then somewhere around there, I discovered Joni Mitchell, Bob Dylan, and then I realized, wow, you could really, especially with Joni Mitchell, get so um, uh, uh, n- literary, like a book with your lyrics. You didn't just have to have monosyllabic words that rhymed every other line. You could write a novel essentially and a novella
mm,
and set it to music. Not that I could write like Joni Mitchell, but it all of that just showed me that I could do this on my own. I could express my own thoughts and just see where it takes me. See if I can make it in the world. See if I can make it
yeah.
doing that. Follow my dream, Tom.
I remember seeing you at a Passim open mic. Back when the Passim open mic, you couldn't get in basically, and I was outside, and I was like, "Oh, this sounds cool."
You mean like when it was because it was so crowded?
Yeah, you couldn't. Yeah, it was like you'd be there till 12 at
Yeah,
night, 1 o'clock in the morning,
yeah,
doing the in the round thing. It was like, yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, this town really. I mean, you were fuck. You're the people love you here. Like people, you have the respect of the best songwriters out there, like Peter Mulvey, and and like and I was just a young young in age, but young to the scene. I wasn't like I was just kind of hanging out. I really enjoyed watching you play Cambridge. Was that and all around and getting back when you got those cards and had the dates and seeing like, oh, you're playing in all these fucking places. And when websites first came out, you were telling me about like, yeah, I like to rate bathrooms all around the country, like the bathroom of every club. You like rated them, you like talked about them and shit. Like, but it was a lot of fun to watch. It was a lot of fun to watch. You playing Falcon Ridge when I was, it's I had a question in here somewhere.
It's nice to hear you say that because I didn't always feel that way. I felt like I did find some of my people. I found some followers. I found some gigs. Played some cool festivals, but I also was turned down a lot. I had a lot of doors closed. I have saved postcards that I got from clubs in Greater Boston that said, "We like you, but you're just too much. You're too much for our audience. Sorry." Like,
Wow.
like never mind that I'm a folk singer and the fucking history of folk music is
Yeah.
protest music,
Yeah.
motherfuckers. Like it
Yeah.
really it's I guess I still have feelings about it. It really deeply hurt my feelings. And I didn't know, is it just politics? Is it race?
Right.
Is it being a
I'm
woman?
sorry.
All of the
Was
things all at once, you know?
was Richie Havens too much for you? I'm sorry. Like he's a
Right.
guy who
You
used to
know?
beat the shit out of his guitar and fucking sing loud. I mean, really? Okay. I guess I'm
Yeah.
not sure what you're going for here.
And things did happen in the 90s where folks singer-songwriterdom got pretty big and but a lot of it was not political. And I would like to have the answers. I would like to know because I've talked a lot about it in therapy. And but I would say to myself, all right, well, if this door isn't going to open for me, then I'm going to kick it the fuck down.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just did that. And I got into Falcon Ridge, and I got to be best new artist there, and that opened a lot of doors. And
Mm-hmm.
still some doors closed. What am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? Quit? Nope. So I'm just gonna keep going. And the irony is that now, because the world is so fucking terrible, some people are like, "Oh, hey, you write those political songs, right? We need some politics. Come and do those political songs that you've been doing this whole time. You ever do
Well,
that?"
it does, like, because I know you lived here in town for a long time, and you just took the town for all it was that was there, and then you moved out of town for a little bit. It seems like you took a little bit of a hiatus, but like right now, the last couple of years, you've been like back. You've just like working your way back, and it seems like you were making this like nasty resurgence, just like playing shows, and all of a sudden, because here I am, a guy for the last 5 years I've been booking. So I am paying attention to the buzz, and now all of a sudden you are the buzz again. Like you're playing Passim, you're playing here, you're doing the Abbey Road record was really successful. The Abbey Road show, like people were, I when I book a show and then people start emailing me and calling me, when is this? How do I get in? Or what time do I get here? It's like when people start asking the week of the show, asking all the questions. That's because they haven't been in the room before, and they want to know what the room is like because they're coming to see you. So you're driving people to this room that I book, and it's fucking COVID. Like I was really looking forward to this EP release show, this record release show.
Me too.
And but you're right. And going back to the beginning of the conversation, I think the complicity would be easy if we get through the first 6 or 7 months of the presidency, the first 100 days, and things started to level out, and people are like, oh, okay, we don't have to care again. We could just go about our lives and watch Froofy TV, which maybe the country deserves a little bit of that. but I think it's important to keep that fire burning, man. I love that EP. It just makes you think, But what I love about it is like the cross between that and the musicianship, and like you it's like like my silly ass 10-piece band on Thursday nights is controlled chaos. Like your EP is like controlled fire. It's like there's a fire there and it's burning, but I can't just let it burn everything down. I'm just going to keep it really fucking hot with the idea that, hey, man, if you're not paying attention to this shit, I might burn it down. So fucking listen up, buddy.
Thanks for saying that. I got to give a shout out to the musicians, Cinnamon Blair on bass, and
You know what? Tell me about this band, because I love this band. Tell me about them.
Well, let me show it again. Pamela Means in your reparations. It was just Pamela Means Band, and then was advised to think of a name that was more special than Pamela Means Band, something like Diana Ross and the Supremes, Prince and the Revolution, uh,
Mm,
and I thought of the Reparations. And but I think that they're tremendous musicians and they're good people, and we all love each other, and we all believe we're on the same vibe politically and want to be in the fight for justice and spread love and peace in the world. So I think just coming from that and being able to find a groove and stay in it is really all that's happening. There isn't a lot of conscious thought other than um, I mean, I write they're all my songs so far, and uh, I think for me, playing with two other women of color and mostly these political songs, these outspoken songs of mine, we say a lot before we even say a word, and that means a lot to me, and it's deeply, deeply satisfying down in my soul musically and personally and spiritually.
mm,
So maybe some of that comes through when we play. We definitely, when we play gigs, I don't view them just as gigs. I view them and try to create and curate an event and an evening of community and coming together, especially of all the people on the fringes, all the black and brown people, all the queer people, like all of us that just put Biden in office. Let's all come together and celebrate each other and have some fun and dance.
mm. Um, it's funny because it's not the same level of like what you're saying, like it's social importance. It's not what I'm trying to say, but like when you did the Abbey Road record, I feel like you accomplished that in the way of music and spirit, where you everybody sat down to listen to this interpretation of a great record through your voice and your music, your talent, your guitar playing. You didn't just sit down and play the songs Abbey Road. Like I have a Beatles songbook, and I used to do Beatles brunch with a bunch of mates, and we just sit around, Danielle and my friend Alan Goodrich and some friends, and even my son when he was young would thump around and play bass, and we just basically plug away at the songs because they were so good and you knew them. It was like one of these songbooks that's just really easy to read out of. But you interpreted the record in such a way that it's like you made it yours. You did this really cool show, and that's essentially you did the same thing with with that solo performance. Uh, in other words, that's what you do. Like you have a great jazz record out there, jazz covers.
Yes, yes, and I've got a jazz quartet, and we lost a lot of gigs this year too. And I have a couple other records up my sleeve, including a new jazz album that's just acoustic because I recorded it when I recorded Plainfield a couple records ago. You're right. In fact, let's back up a few steps. And you said
Sure.
it seemed like I went on a hiatus. You're totally right. I totally dropped off the scene. I forgot about that. So I'm like bitching about Boston and forgot that I went away for a really long time. I did. I moved away and I toured constantly, did some solo mini cross country tours. I did some international touring. And then in 2008, life got really dramatic, and there's like a lot of shit hit the fan. A lot of people in my life died. A lot of trauma and tragedy, and um, and then I was just kind of forced to and stop and reflect. And I thought I would just take a short time to do that, and it turned into a really long time. And I started going to therapy, um, and I've been in therapy for a decade now. And I think so. I think that all of these things were at work. I couldn't finally pause and do that intense. I was in a really dark, dark place for a couple of years at the beginning of this process when I was living out in Plainfield in the hill towns here in Western Mass. And um, it was really, really bad. But good is a tricky word to use. It was important. I had finally taken the time to do this internal, deeply internal emotional work and reflection of my life and think about, dissect all the rage that I had been carrying, all of the grief, all the sadness, um, and I couldn't do that and be on the road at the same time. And I didn't realize that until I had started that process. And I just thought, well, if I'm finally here to do this process, I will commit to it. So I stopped touring abruptly with no plan. I essentially took my income and went, "Phink," and that that sucked. And so anyway, I crawled through the muck. I walked through the fire for a good couple of years, and in that time when I was not touring, I still wanted to challenge myself creatively and stay on my toes. And I've always wanted to be a great musician. And I got the idea, and I still work toward that. I'm not saying I am, but it's always been a goal. And I got the idea to try a project. I'd already been doing jazz, and I just wanted to push myself further. And I think it was I had a couple summers where I had gigs at Faneuil Hall, and I drive all the fuck away to Boston to busk in Faneuil Hall a
That'll
couple
rip the heart out of anything. It's like it's this great gig that just takes the life out of you. It's just like
blows.
seeing the worst
It's good
aspects of
and it's not.
humanity.
Like,
It's really not.
I like the boot camp aspect of busking, and I
Yes.
and I did a lot of it in the subways in Harvard Square when I lived there.
Hmm.
Um, but I needed to have a guaranteed spot, so I did the Faneuil Hall thing where they scheduled you and you have a guaranteed spot. And I was grateful for that, but I found out that I made a lot more money if I played covers. So I started to learn a lot of covers, and in that process, I added a lot of Beatles songs. And so I think driving 2.5 hours back and forth from Boston to the hill towns multiple times a week, listening to a lot of music, including Abbey Road. I think I just thought I think I want to learn this album. And I used to play part of You Never Give Me Your Money and Faneuil Hall. And, that's part of a medley and it breaks into all this other stuff that I
It's
didn't know.
also a brilliant busking song because
Yeah.
that's like when you're
But I didn't know
busking.
the whole thing yet. I only knew the beginning. And I thought that'd be cool if I learned the whole thing. And I thought, I'm going to learn the whole album. And so I just thought, so this was after Faneuil Hall. I just started to practice the album just to see if I could do it. It was out of my comfort zone. It wasn't jazz. It was really complex Beatles stuff. And I just wanted to prove to myself whether or not I could do it. It took 8 months.
Mm.
Um, and I learned it in order from start to finish. And some songs I never really learned, like Here Comes the Sun, just kicked my ass up
Mm.
and down the block. And and I learned it all. And
When
then
you
I
say you never really learned it, is that are you saying it's like I still mess it up when I play it, or like I did something else, or like what? How did you end up reconciling having to do that song?
I had a guitar student in his 70s, and he wanted to learn Here Comes the Sun, but he just wanted to play G, C, and D chords. So I had to figure out where I could put the capo to play it with just simple, basic G, C, D chords.
Mm-hmm.
And that was way up at the seventh fret. And then I was like, oh, this is easy. And but I didn't think it counted. And then I
Isn't that
saw,
where he? Isn't that how he does it? Yeah.
but I didn't know that until after all this torture. And then arranging it for someone else, and then I saw footage of
Harrison fakes it too.
so when that happened, I was like, "Oh, bet. All right, I got it."
Mm.
And 2019 was the 50th anniversary of the album, so in late 2018, I started to relearn it so that I could try to book some shows and make that new dream come
Mm.
true, which is performing the album by myself. Yeah, and in that challenge was how do I learn this? How do I be myself and play this, yet still hit all the marks and honor the points that are iconic about that album that if I didn't do it, people would be like, you didn't really do it because you didn't do that part,
Yeah, you
so
got to do something.
yeah.
Yeah,
Especially like the ridiculous drum solo at the end.
yeah.
I did it. I did it.
I made it a homework assignment to years ago to learn something on bass. I mean, I could probably play any song on bass on that record that was thrown at me if it was some jam circle because it's so it's iconic. You just know it. But you know, here's a George Harrison song similar to "Here Comes the Sun," but the bass part in something is almost as integral is the melody and the chords and everything. I mean, he's constantly. It's almost like a second voice, the bass in something. It's just
Yeah.
constantly answering back the vocals, uh, giving counter melody, and but here I am on the bass guitar, basically playing chords and singing the song and not emulating this bass part at all.
Mm.
So I'm like, well, I gotta at least like do something. I gotta, hey, something. But I just finally towards the end of the song, there's one bass part it just tags it so hard for me. It's after the solo, after the guitar, because even the guitar solo I'm emulating on the bass with chords and stuff. And it comes out of the guitar solo, and it's like in the last, what's the last? Is it something in the way she moves? Something. So something in the way she knows. Is that the last chorus? Something in the way she knows in the bass, but boom ba da do ba da do ba 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 do, and all I have to do is, and I just play that lick, and it's every time I'm doing it. If I have an audience that's there with me, they're always like, ah. That part.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny. Like on an album like that, you have like a ton of those moments because it's like, how am I going to make this? You know.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was all really fun to learn. And um, I still love to perform it. And I got to relearn it every time have to do it.
Mm,
I can't pull that one out of my ass. I have to do my homework if I'm gonna do the whole. Maybe one or two songs, like something is one of the ones that I play. I frequently a regular gig. I'll pull one Beatles out to because it's fun to
sure.
do. But if I have a show where I'm gonna do the whole thing, and I lost some of those gigs too this year.
Oh,
I gotta do my homework.
yeah. Now, when you did that show, when you were finished, the audience wanted to hear songs of yours as encores. What are the songs that have been in your repertoire since day one that you still like? I'm playing this. I'm playing this. They're requested. They feel good to play. That kind of thing.
What do you mean since day one? Since the beginning
Since,
of
since,
my music?
since yeah, but, well, I mean, going all the way back to Wisconsin might be extreme. I don't know, but maybe not. But like your first record that you put out in Boston, your first couple records, what are there songs that are just like I love to still play this one. It's like I love to still play that. Like what what do you prepare? I suppose for an encore when people will be like, play some of yours at the end of a Beatles show.
I well when I would play newer songs or something from one of the more recent releases. I play very little from my early album. So this is my 10th album. This
Wow.
record is my 10th album. I don't play anything from my first albums. That's probably not the best career decisions, but I feel like I grow past them and I don't want to play them anymore. Like I played them so much when they were new. Sometimes someone will request one and I might remember it. I might not even remember it anymore.
Yeah.
But um
I think
I don't enjoy old songs. I feel glad that other people still like those old songs. I'm glad I wrote them, but I don't want to fucking play them anymore.
well, it's you're a lot like my wife like that. She's got all these songs and she's just like, I did that. She plays the new stuff. That's why you're a prolific writer. That's why you have 3 things on the burner, and none of them are tribute albums to yourself. I'd rather do the new stuff. Yeah, I mean that's the classic prolific art or response. I'm like, I'm gonna do the fucking new stuff. You know,
I'm still proud of all the albums that I put out, but
I think Cobblestones is the one you actually handed me. Does that
aw,
sound right? Is that the name of it? Do I have the name right?
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly right.
yeah. Back in the CD days when the great CD revolution.
That was my third album, second CD, and first one that I put out. Because I had one before that, but it had started. I started making it when I still lived in Wisconsin, and then I moved to Boston and added a couple live tracks to make it a full length release. And then by Cobblestones, I had been living in Cambridge for a couple of years, starting to get my name around, playing the open mics and the little entry level gigs, and figuring out how to start touring. And Cobblestones was the first album I put out in the midst of all of that. So it was a very I would say it's a mile marker in my life. It was the first time I had my own apartment. I was happy. I had a good vibe living in Cambridge, walking around, riding my bicycle everywhere, seeing my friends play every night,
Did you
busking.
did you live in Davis too, or Somerville? Or, I'm
I
trying to
lived,
remember.
yeah, I moved every couple of years, but I lived usually somewhere around along the red line. I lived in between Harvard and Porter. My own apartment that I had for a couple of years was on Sacramento Street, down the block from Lizard Lounge, and
Maybe that's I don't. I'm
always,
trying to remember. Like I don't know why we were hanging, but we were hanging for some reason. I think you were playing with Jason Gardner on drums, and
yeah.
for some reason we were hanging. And your apartment had like, I remember you came in and just like my apartment was at the time was just like a bed and like a dirty countertop and like just like no sign of any
Central
function
Square,
whatsoever.
right?
It's no
Central Square.
function. Yeah, it's no function whatsoever. And I just remember like you had like your music stand and that like a like jazz style guitar there, you know, like probably a hollow body if I remember right. And like it just seemed to me like, oh, like I guess at the time I just thought whatever you were doing in the spotlight is all you were. Not you, anyone, you know. I just like, oh, you have this whole you do other like, you know, I just wasn't much of a hardworking person, I suppose. I had no plan. I never had a plan. I mean, I've always just like, okay, I'm gonna go play the subway now because I don't have a job. Shake a cup, make a few bucks, you know. And, I was trying to remember it because I remember that conversation so vividly, little pieces of it. But I remember walking through some fucking schoolyard or park, and I remember being in a place with the guitar. It impacted me in such a way. I've been thinking about it all week, and you know, I still remember that conversation. It kind of just like turned me on to like opening my eyes to the rest of the world and not just being a fuck off. You know, it's interesting to me. You know, to the path to you know from Wisconsin to here, playing music, and now here we are. Like we're all kind of all grown up and like still doing it. Like we're still like I was talking with Will Daly, and he did this podcast a couple weeks ago. He's like, Tom, you got to call this podcast Lifers, you know, because that's what we're doing here. That's what we're talking about. It's like one way or the other. It's like, you know, Will is this, everybody I've had on has got like this project, that project, the other thing, you know, everything from touring, playing rooms, 2 or 3 different projects, covers, originals, to giving lessons, like, just keeping the pot stirred. Just always got something going on. Always got something cooking.
Well, I have a clear memory that of you that affected the rest of my musical life, and somehow I borrowed your rig to busk in the subway. I don't know if I took your spot for a long pee break or something, or
God,
borrowed.
I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
But what you had was a crybaby wah for the bass that
Oh, I
went,
do remember that. Yeah.
and so I just used it with my acoustic guitar, and I was like,
Mm.
and I've had one in my rig ever since.
I have that around here somewhere. I still have it. I don't use
I've had
pedals a
2 of
lot.
them now. I even there's a mini one now, but this big, so I have them
Yeah.
both. Yeah.
Is it still the spring-loaded response or whatever?
Yep.
Yeah.
That's a cool
Cool.
feature too, because I never was good at the regular one where you gotta stomp on it to engage it and then make it work, which is annoying to me.
I'm yeah,
But the
yeah, when
bass wah just got different frequencies in it, and it doesn't necessarily sound like a wah.
It doesn't make a guitar sound like,
Yeah,
that's what the wah sound. Walk, 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 walk.
yeah,
beautiful. It makes the guitar sound beautiful, and so thank you, Tom.
cool. When I like a piece of gear, I'm like salesman Rick. Okay, come on over and see this shiny white bass pedal.
That's right.
Waka waka waka.
White. I remember one time on the road, it died, and I had to have one for the gig that night. I was in San Francisco, and I bought another one in Haight Ashbury because I had to have it. I had to have it
Cool.
for like that night. I couldn't have a night without my bass wah.
I like it. I like it. That's great. That's cool. That's very cool.
Mhm.
Right on.
Yes, Tom.
So when things get back, we'll rebook that show
Okay, that sounds good.
and we'll rock and we'll roll. I can't wait to hear you again. I can't wait to hear the band. The Abbey Road show was something else. I really can't wait to do the band. How are you holding up, like COVID and all that stuff? Are you just you kind of just hunkered down and waiting through it?
Well, I've been going through my changes. I was freaking the fuck out the first few weeks. I thought we were all gonna die. That calmed down. There was a video that was helpful of a doctor in NYC who was in the thick of it, and he was Dr. David Price, and he was deciding who went on a ventilator or not. And he made a video that went viral, and it was just basically like, look, if you just wash your hands a lot and don't get close to people that are sick, you have a good chance that you won't get the virus. And it was
Right.
just so practical. It helped me calm down.
Mm-hmm.
And then, where humans are adaptable. So then I got into the groove of, okay, well, I guess I'm going to be home all the time and, figure out what live streaming is and how to do that. Um, and then it was okay for a while. And then toward the end of summer, I hit a patch where I got sad again, and I was feeling like I thrive on solitude. I'm good being on my own. I've toured across the country by myself, 10-hour
Mm.
drive alone, most of it in silence. I'm in my vibe, but I started to have moments where I was like, am I lonely?
Yeah.
Because I wasn't getting those attachment needs met, from being home. I could go out and see friends and, have 5, 10 hugs a night, and all of that was just gone. And um but I think what helped was just saying that out loud, and taking the risk of being that kind of vulnerable with my friends. And a few people said, yeah, me too, me too. Not everyone.
Mm.
um but that's the only thing that changed. It was really sad, feeling lonely, and I just kind of shared that with my people. And
Do you have like a small bubble of a friend or two where you like comfortable sitting across the yard 10 feet away and just chilling?
I have a very small in-person bubble, a few people that I see once in a while, maybe once a week or so, and then I have a lot more group text threads with friends, and
Mm.
that's the COVID. I think made us all have to work a little bit more at staying in touch with our friends, and that's been a good thing. So I've been glad
Mm.
to have a community, and that we're all checking in on each other every day.
I've made a lot of random phone calls, just like, oh hey, I think you and I might have been one of them. a while, like even pre-COVID. Well, the funny thing is, even pre-COVID. Now like I had a major like fucking health event last March, not this past March, the March before. So when that happened, when it came time to book friends here and there, like I just picked up the phone, which is something nobody does anymore.
Mhm.
So it's interesting. There's a lot happening during COVID that I already kind of went through last year, like especially specifically songwriting. Like I wrote all my wow, I almost died and I'm still alive songs last year. So it's like I went. I've been there, done that. I was on the fucking ventilator. You can ask me about it. Uh, but it's funny. I've been making a lot of random phone calls. So it's now through COVID, as I make a random phone call or two and reach out. I've done this weird, obnoxious thing where every once in a while, like there's this kid I used to work with at the Big Burrito in Alston way back in 1996, 97. And I just used that Facebook message thing and I Facebook audio and I just fucking called him. And he's like, I could see him. Like, he's like, Tom? I'm like, hey, Mike, how you doing? He's like, I'm doing great. How are you? Like, it's just, I've done that a few times, which is, it's kind of fun. It's like you say, you take from this situation what you have to take from it. You keep in touch with friends and even reacquaint here and there. We'll get through it. I do think that I've noticed more mask wearing. Like it's no longer cool to not wear the mask in protest. Here I am in the city of Everett, which is very congested, and I'm in town. I'm shopping all the time. In the beginning of COVID, there was a lot of these like, "Hey man, yeah, sure, blah 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 blah," And I notice more and more. There's just like, okay, like even if it's judgment, even if it's like, I don't want people looking at me thinking this bozo doesn't know how the mask works. And I do think that I mean it's kind of weird to see all this celebrating the last week because it's like I'm like this is awesome, but
Yeah. Right.
But if we get through this next bunch of months, we'll be in good shape. We'll be back to it. I can't wait to have you again.
Yeah, me too. I'm braced for no real gigs until 2022. Maybe a year from now, late 2021, something will start to happen, and I'll be glad for whenever it does, but I'm prepared to be chilling until at least 2022. I'm gonna still be creative and put some well, keep pushing this new record for a while. That's the one thing
Mm-hmm.
about being independent. A new album lasts longer, and then put out the next things. Keep going. What are you gonna do? You're gonna keep going.
That's a great record. Where was it recorded?
In Amherst at a place called North Fire
Mm.
Recording. So we were invited to perform a house concert, but in the studio for a very limited audience and have it multi-track audio recorded and five camera shoot. I think with Amherst Media Community Television and for free. And so I said to Northfire when they offered this free recording, I was like, "Why? Why doing that? What do you mean free?
What do you mean?
What do you mean?" And they're like, "Well, we just dig what you do and want to show off our space." So we did this It was recorded a couple summers ago, and I already was about to put on an album, so I just kind of didn't think about it for a while. And but I did say at the time that when I revisit this recording, and if I decide I want to release it, then I will pay and come back in the studio and spend the time and the money to properly mix it and master it and pay the band honorable studio fees retroactively.
Right.
And I did all that and did a Kickstarter, launched a Kickstarter 3 days before the COVID shutdown. But fortunately, it made the goal. And then I was like, well, I guess I'll still put it out. There's going to be no touring behind it now, but
Mm.
we'll just put it out and keep it going. Oh.
Now you made hard copies. Is it? Did you get sales on hard copies and send them out? Like, how does it even fucking work these days?
I knew that I'd have orders to fulfill from Kickstarter, and I did print
Right.
copies. And actually, for the first time ever, I printed explicit and clean versions. So I had 3 songs on here with adult language, and I went in during the mixing and made clean versions. So for 2 of the songs, we swapped out a profanity for guitar strums, and on one of them we made it go backwards like the hip hop record. So it was like, ain't
Right.
none of y'all mother business. And
Nice.
it was cool to do that because I often I don't intend to, but I don't shy away from using an F-bomb or something if it feels appropriate.
Mm.
But then sometimes someone will ask me, a mom or a DJ, do you have a clean version? And I would always have to say no.
Yeah.
But now
Yeah.
I can say yes. So
Do you like? What do you go through when you're in the middle of a song live on stage? Of course, it hasn't been a little while, but like, and you're in a room, say even the Burn or house concert, and you're coming up on that lyric, and you're like, do I drop the F-bomb? Do I censor it today? Is it always like, is it like this? Did you before the show even starts, you're like, I think this is a censor room, or you're like, I can just say anything I want. Like the Bird is probably a room you say whatever the fuck you want, But like, do you make a decision?
Every once in a while, there's a rule that says, please use this family friendly. Don't use the bad words. And then I won't. I have definitely forgotten and done it anyway. Usually I just do it based on my mood that day or what I feel in the room. Like I'm not doing it to antagonize or for the shock factor. And I don't just use those words willy-nilly. Like I use them because I fucking meant them at the time that I wrote them. And sometimes I feel that or something similar in a moment, and sometimes I don't. And there are also, and the reasons that I have not used it is because and why I printed clean versions is because it just removes one easy reason for a listener to dismiss what I'm trying to say or not.
And radio edits, you want the thing to play on the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny. It's funny that I did a house concert last year, I think last November. And there was one little kid there. And I was talking to their parents, and their parents were there early. I was like, I have this new song I wrote. It's basically called I Can Fuck It Up. Like it's just a joke, kind of half. It's a country song where the chorus is, I can fuck it up. Show me the plan. I'll do what I can. I can fuck it up. Like, in other words, it's just basically I could screw up anything. That's the whole point of the song. I was like, do you want me to not play that tonight? And they were like, oh no, go ahead. It's funny. It's a little kid. And they were now a week later, they sent me a video of her kids singing the lyric at the show. She's like side view, and she's like, fuck it up. You fuck it up. like, oh, okay. You know, but you never. It's funny. I didn't ask that of anybody else,
Yeah.
and I honestly think there was an older woman in the crowd. It was like, you know, she was just like she didn't like it, and I didn't even think about it. I don't think she liked that.
A lot more people chose the clean version because when I was fulfilling the Kickstarter rewards, I let people
Really?
choose, do you want the explicit or the clean? And I thought just maybe one or two or three, that like including people who I knew were DJs, but a lot more people picked the clean than I expected. Some got one of each. Maybe they were just curious and wanted to hear both.
Uh-huh.
But it made me think. It made me think about it. It made me think, huh?
Huh.
Maybe less people are cool with it than I thought. Not that I'm gonna change, but now maybe I'll just make sure I provide another option just so that the door can stay open.
Huh. That's interesting.
Mhm.
That's interesting. I have such a foul mouth. Maybe I should curb myself a little bit sometime. Pick and choose. I was in the hospital.
Fucking fun.
Well, it's also just you just get used to it. It's like a way of expression. This fucking sucks, you know.
Science has proven people with a potty mouth are generally smarter than other people.
More creative. Yeah, there's all kinds of studies. I was in a hospital. My mother kept yelling at me because I kept cursing, and all the nurses were in the room. You know, I'm like, you know, she's like, "Don't curse in front of a lady." I'm like, "Mom, fucking I got wires attached to me everywhere, like 3 different tubes insert." I'm like, I'm like this, and my mother's like, "Watch your mouth." Watch your mouth, Jesus Christ. You know, that's interesting though that people would choose. Like I would imagine, yeah, I would imagine you go right for the explicit lyric.
A lot like give me the fucking explicit, but more than I anticipated. I'm gonna guess 20 to 30% of people pick the clean.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot. Like, better safe than sorry.
And some in that, some people got one of each, so maybe they just wanted to hear how I handled the clean remix.
Right.
But because everyone got to have a download and the CD, so you could mix and match or get both. And only a couple people got both clean download, clean CD. Most people did get one of each. So
yeah,
maybe that's not a true test, but I have it, you know, and I'm definitely not going to send profanity out to radio stations. So.
Did you? I almost wore my Pamela Mean shirt today, but I thought that would be a little much. I thought you'd be like, all right, it'll be a little weird, right? Like, I'll wear your shirt when I'm interviewing somebody else, so I'm like represent, you know.
Okay.
Did you make a run of merch? Because it's funny, like I really feel like stuff like T-shirts these days, as far as making money, it's like it's where it's at. CDs are hard to sell, harder and harder to sell CDs, you know.
Yeah. Let's see, what do I have? I keep T-shirts stocked. I make more stickers now. I've got this full color sticker of.
Boy, let me.
This.
Cool. That's a sticker.
I had this thought that I wanted to have a wooden something that was subliminally representative of a slave ship, but not overtly. Like no one would even have to know except that I just said so. And so I have a friend who's a welder, and he made this. So the original of this is like a 2.5 foot by 2 foot wooden piece, and the letters are burned into it. And
wow.
It's called a pyrography. And so
wow.
It's pretty incredible.
That is really cool.
So
do you still have the piece of wood?
He took it back to make a frame so that I could hang it on the wall.
Oh.
And, so it will be hanging on my wall at some point. Yeah.
Cool.
And if there are gigs again, I could take it and it could be on stage with us.
That's great.
Yeah.
Man, I'm looking forward to getting back to things and stuff and all of it, you know. I'm glad you're doing well. I'm glad the new record is getting some traction. I love it. I can't tell you enough. I listened to it with the earbuds on. Like I said, I was riding, and I'm always fascinated. Like me, I always gravitate towards bass. I just love everything and all the percussion. Everything's so tasty, and it's like you're such a great guitar player. You're such a unique in a world of guitar players. You're such a unique guitar player. Your musicianship is out of this world, and you really come at that thing. It's like guitar. When you walk into a shop, guitarists go, ah!
Thanks,
except that one that's like, yeah, bring it. And you're like, that's mine. It's a wonderful artist. I don't know. I've been playing music for a long time, and now I present music, and it's nice to be able to present what I really genuinely like. And it's also a big deal to me that like I'm in a very lucky position where I can basically book what I want, and my favorite combination is people that I really have a lot of heart for, and I love the music. It's like you're the real deal, top to bottom. Always have been. You were very kind to a young songwriter back in the day when you were doing the festivals, and I was tagging around, and you would throw me $50 to just stand there on the side and change a string in case you broke one, and you let me experience a lot of a scene from the inside instead of being out there in the audience, and I learned a lot. I'll never forget when some bzz happened, something happened. Club Passim. I was sitting on the side of the stage, Club Passim, and some noise. I don't even know if it was your fault, the sound system's fault, and like everybody, Passim, like, oh, yeah, loud noise. Everybody kind of went, oh, and then there was this weird silence. And rather than like, my energy is always like, oh, don't worry about blah blah blah, but like. That's how I would react, and you just kind of like you're tuning, and you kind of went like, "Don't worry about that." I got that. It's your own way of. I remember this is a weird combination, but I remember this. Somebody was talking about a Jimmy Buffett concert, and the second Jimmy Buffett comes to the stage and starts talking and playing, it's like you're on the ship. And everything's going to be okay. And you're one of the first artists I got to see in Passim from this point of view, like where like you were there, the room was full, and everybody's eating their food and doing their thing, and then you hit the stage, and it's like, boom. It's like, okay, I'm driving this ship now. Hi, I'm Pamela Means. And it's just great. People would yell out and or request or something, and you would just genuinely enjoy the audience, and you just crush. You're the best. I really appreciate this conversation. Thank you so much for doing it.
Thanks, Tom. Mean a lot.
You think we covered all the bases here tonight?
We covered a lot. Dude. Covered a lot.
It's funny. Every time I do one of these, we have a little text conversation before the show, and someone's like, "What? Maybe half an hour, 20 minutes, 30 minutes? How long?" I'm like,
I know. I was like, I don't know
always,
about an hour, Tom.
It's always at least an hour and a half every time. But I stopped saying that because it sounds like such a long time. But like then we get to the end of the show and
just keeps going. Yeah.
I'm gonna.
It was flowing.
We had it. We had the groove.
Yeah.
We could do this.
Yeah.
we could do it again.
Yeah.
Let's do it after the first. If we're still quarantined, let's do it after the first 50 days of the new presidency or something like that. We'll do a review.
Okay. Sounds good.
How they doing show.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds good.
You have any live streams you want to mention that you're coming up that you're playing?
Nope.
We could do that too. I could put one on the calendar, and I could.
I think I will. I was doing them, and then they just became the live stream scene became oversaturated immediately, and it didn't feel special. So I'm kind of off the scene, figuring out how to re-enter in an interesting way. I do have a Patreon page now, but ain't shit on it.
Mm-hmm.
But just wanted to grab it before someone else took my name, and
Hmm.
so I'm gonna see if if I can figure out something interesting with that page, and maybe bring occasional, or just start to do them on Facebook. I don't know. I'm just gonna fill it
Well,
up, fill it out.
I would love to do one. I would love to send the message to my email list that we're doing one together and do a quick hour, and we'll format it right like this, do a little introduction, then I'll get out of the way. Then it's all you, and I could put up captions like, do things like, "Hey man, everybody, see?"
Nice.
You know, I don't know, they could do they could put up, "Hey."
Yay!
Normally, I feel like I'm dragging this thing out. I'm so sorry. Normally, I have stuff like, here's one. My wife had a show the other night. We used this platform. I would have had your record ready to go and stuff. I had so much technical trouble today. It took me like an hour and a half just to get the thing going so we could talk. Like I got it work. I got the channels working right at fucking game time. So normally, like I got this picture, like is an old picture of Will Daly and I at the Heralds. This is Heralds in Alston. I don't know if you remember that gig, but normally I go and I look at I have pictures and I look for all great pictures of you, or maybe you and I together back in the day. And then I have a game that I call, all right, what's going on here? Where I grab like a really random picture of you in some situation. But
Fun.
that's all shit that didn't happen. So I probably shouldn't talk about it.
Okay. I'll look forward to it next time.
Next time, Pamela, I'm going to let you go. Hang in 1 second. I'll say a proper goodbye.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the end of our show. Live stream of consciousness every Monday night. We do live concerts here. I believe we have Rachel Marie on Wednesday, November 11th. Tomorrow night, I'm going to do this weird thing where I'm going to go online with my family and talk about Thanksgiving. Because in 3 hours, it's my freaking birthday. How about that? Happy birthday, Tom. And we have Lisa Bastoni coming up later this month, and Kevin So in December. And I play every single Thursday night. That's it for our show. I'm going to get Pamela back on the Pamela on the camera, and say goodbye. But I'm going to click the finish button right here. I'm going to